Rishi Sunak is under fire. Labour Party leader Sir Keir Starmer slammed Sunak in the Parliamentary question hour. That was after Sunak joked that the opposition leader could not define what a woman was.
It's a bit rich, Mr. Speaker, to hear about promises from someone who's broken every single promise he was elected on. I mean, I think I counted almost 30 in the last year. Pensions, planning, peerages, public sector pay, tuition fees, childcare, second referendums, defining a woman. Although in fairness, that was only 99% of a U-turn.
Of all the weeks to say that, when Brianna's mother is in this chamber, shame, parading as a man of integrity when he's got absolutely no responsibility. Absolute.
Sunak made the comment even as the mother of a murdered transgender girl was attending the parliamentary exchange. Later, Sunak also ignored a call from a Labour MP to apologise to Brianna Ghey's mother. At the end of the session, the Prime Minister did say the mother represented the very best of humanity.
I could just say, also, to Brianna Ghey's mum, who is here, as I've said earlier this week, what happened was an unspeakable and shocking tragedy, Mr. Speaker. And as I said earlier this week, in the face of that, for her mother to demonstrate the compassion and empathy that she did last weekend.
The latest incident in the Parliament is expected to further hit Sunak's already low poll ratings. Earlier, in a bid to improve numbers on this front, Sunak made an unusual move. During an interview earlier this week, the PM was asked if he was prepared to bet £1,000 on whether the Rwanda deportation plan would start before the UK polls. Sunak shook hands on the £1,000 wager, signifying an agreement to the bet. The British PM also reiterated that he's working extremely hard to get asylum seekers on the one-way flight to Rwanda. However, Sunak backed out of the gamble. Labour Party politicians have said that the bet proves PM Sunak is terribly out of touch with Britain's working class. The Scottish National Party said the bet could have breached the UK's ministerial code.
This is one of the greatest miscarriages of justice in our nation's history. People who work...
Well, for more on this, we're now being joined by our correspondent Julia Chapman from London. Julia, quite a furore in the House of Commons yesterday with that comment from the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. What's your assessment on how that situation is playing out?
Well, transgender rights are always controversial, not least politically, and we've seen this back and forth cause quite a furore on Wednesday when the Prime Minister accused the opposition Labour Party of a U-turn on its position on trans rights. That U-turn when we heard Sir Keir Starmer say that 99.9% of women don't have penises was, of course, trying to play into the belief that most voters that will be voting in the upcoming general election later this year do feel that transgender rights are something that is very important to be addressed. So-called culture wars will be a voting issue later in the year. So there has been some controversy, but none less than yesterday when Brianna Ghey's mother, Esther Ghey, was due in Parliament to watch proceedings for Prime Minister's questions, this weekly event. Of course, this comes just over a year since she lost her daughter in a very gruesome murder in Warrington. And certainly we saw the trial, the conviction and the sentencing last week of her two killers in that attack. But what we've seen in this discussion, in this back and forth in Parliament, was what has been described by some as political point scoring over transgender rights. Indeed, the father of Brianna Ghey has said that he was disgusted by what he saw, and he has demanded an apology from the Prime Minister. However, we understand that Brianna Ghey's mother had not actually made it into Parliament when the exact exchange took place. She is understood to have arrived a little bit later and missed it. Nonetheless, certainly a very contentious issue playing out in a major election year where, as you say, Rishi Sunak is quite far behind in the polls and has been accused of using transgender rights for political gain. However, the Labour Party has been accused of just the same thing by clinging on to that issue and the response from the Prime Minister.
Julia Chapman, many thanks there for your insight.